there, warm welcome. You're watching Decoding Now with me, Meghna Deka. Well, buckle up because you're headed for a very bumpy ride. Are you ready to give up on your comfort for your country? Well, it's been 72 days since Trump went to war against Iran, and now we are about to feel the pinch. Crude oil's been rising, rupees has been declining, and the war has hit a status quo. In the midst of it, Prime Minister Modi has given his mantra of Modinomics to beat the war blues. More and more saving, less and less of spending, and help your nation recover. Well, in fact, he recommends first, no foreign trips for 1 year, work from home when possible, carpooling, and public transport like metros and buses. Then you have electric cars to conserve fuel. Say no to gold for at least a year, and also expensive shadis. Try decreasing the cooking oil that you're using at home, and definitely go Swadeshi. Well, that's his mantra. We are going to be decoding for you how frugality can help India win this Forex war. But there are critics who are asking, why should the onus lie on the Janta, not the Sarkar? Well, the Congress was quick to point out that the stunning air show that we saw over Somnath Temple today, IAF Surya Kiran's 9 aircraft zoomed over the skies, making hearts a spectacular display. While it was a visual treat, the Congress asked, was it necessary? And while we have been asked to cut down on our gold Mangal Sutras and cut down on gold on the whole, why do parties spend crores on poll campaigns, they ask? After all, the 5 state polls that we just saw was a big, massive event with crores being pumped in from every party. Remember, the 2024 Lok Sabha polls was the world's most expensive election. How much was the spending? Roughly 1.35 lakh crore rupees was spent in that election to stay in power by the netas, but austerity steps should be there for the Janta. While we shouldn't be traveling abroad for a year on a vacation, of course summer vacations are around the corner, but you shouldn't be traveling abroad. Imagine how much money was spent in the swearing in of Chief Minister, for example, Vijay in Tamil Nadu and Chief Minister Suvendu Adhikari in Bengal. Well, there are some estimates that over 5,000 people were invited for Vijay swearing in, over 10,000 people invited for the swearing in of Suvendu Adhikari. Couldn't all of that have been curtailed as well? Those are the kind of questions that the Janta has been asking. After all, it's been 72 days since the Iran war began. Congress has been asking, why is the government waking up now? And now that it's woken up, does that mean a huge spike in fuel prices for the Janta? Well, let's explain. Why is this appeal coming in and why now? Why is Prime Minister Modi urging Indians to conserve Forex? Well, crude prices have been very volatile. They've been staying sticky above the 106 per barrel mark as well, and that is one of the problems that we've been facing. In fact, the crude oil prices have even swung as high as $126 per barrel recently during the war. Crude oil imports, as we all know, require foreign Forex, which is anyway under pressure given the rupee's weakness against the dollar. Well, remember, the rupee very recently had hit a record low of 95.33 versus $1 US. April alone saw an FII outflow of $7.5 billion, which takes the year-to-date outflows beyond $20 billion. That's the problem. Also, foreign trips. Well, foreign trips have come under the scanner as well because the rupee has been weakening under the strained pressure. Prime Minister Modi says that cut down on your foreign spendings. Save the Forex. Why? Because rupee is down 3% in 1 month alone. It's fighting a dying war against the dollar. In 1 month, 7.6% in 6 months has been the decline of the rupee. When you look at it since the start of 2026, it's been a 5.8% drop, and also a sharp 10.9, almost 11% drop in the value of rupee over the last 1 year alone. There has been a steady slide in the currency as the dollar has tightened its grip and external headwinds are becoming very heavy on the Indian economy, which is why we need to be saving the foreign forex. Now, while the rupee has been weakening, Prime Minister Modi has given a clarion call. He says, say no to gold for at least 1 year. Well, it is worth its weight in gold. But let's explain why we are saying that. Well, India's gold import is at a whopping $72 billion in the financial year of 26 alone. This is a 24% rise from last year, from 2025. After all, India is the second largest buyer in the world, globally that is. Gold bars, gold coins, their demand too has jumped up 34% year on year. Imagine every year going in 34% more demand for gold, and a lot of it is domestic. So if Indians cut down on gold consumption, the macro impact could be quite substantial. In fact, a 30 to 40% fall in imports may save about $20 to $25 billion a year. This is what you can save. In 1 year alone, you can save $20 to $25 billion if you manage to cut down on your gold requirements. Also, for roughly for about 50%, let's say you manage to cut down on your gold consumption by 50%, the fall in imports would be about $36 billion. That's how much you can actually save. So, of course, the savings would have been huge. In fact, let's say that there is an impact of 1 year. In 1 year, if you manage to cut down this 36 billion that I was telling you, which would have been about 50% of your cuttings, if it comes down, you save this much, and this much is, remember, half of the projected CAD of India itself, of India's projected current account deficit. That's how much our nation can actually gain if we manage to close the purse strings and say no to gold, turning gold restraint into a major economic buffer for the nation. In fact, we have also touched upon gold. Now let's tell you about liquid gold. Let's tell you how Prime Minister Modi's clarion call to cut consumption of petrol and diesel will help in household savings as well and help the exchequer. How, you ask? Well, look at this. Crude imports for India per day, remember this is per day, is 5,700 crore rupees per day. And if we manage to cut it by 10 to 15%, we will be able to save somewhere between 21 to 31,000 crore rupees per quarter. That's the amount that we can save if we do manage to tighten the purse strings there. Second, let's look at road transport. How much people like you and me in a day, how much is India spending for transportation costs? And this excludes public transportation. Transportation cost itself is roughly 3,800 crore rupees per day. If we manage to follow the 2-day work from home, Prime Minister Modi has said as often as you can do a work from home. What is the math behind that? Let's explain the math behind that. Then we'll be able to save somewhere between 4,500 to 8,000 rupees per month. This is how much you can save. This is how much we can actually bring it down to. These are huge numbers that we are actually looking at. Let's also look at others, such as aviation fuel. India spends about 235 crore rupees per day, and if we manage to cut down one basic family, which is roughly an estimate of 4 people in a family, if you cut down on one foreign trip, how much can you save? You can save between 5 to 12 lakh rupees per family if you cut down on your foreign trips. And where does that money go? It helps in ensuring that we regain our economic stability. Public transport, let's look at that cost as well. We spend about 1.2 lakh rupees, lakh crore rupees per year in subsidies. If we shift to metros and buses, if we can actually cut it down, the commuter can save up to 75% lower per kilometer. Per kilometer when you're traveling, it's 75% cheaper for you, the viewer, you, the commuter, if you instead take a bus or a metro instead of taking your own car to your office, to any other place that you are commuting to. That's the amount of money that we can actually save. But remember, it's not just India. Global economies are recalibrating under pressure due to surge in oil prices as well. In fact, in the United States, federal funds are shifting away from the broad fuel support to targeted safety nets for low-income commuters. Let's also tell you what's happening in China. In China, China moves to secure food supply with a total ban on nitrogen and potassium exports. These are steps which have already been put in place. Then you have Germany. Germany pushes employers to incentivize work from home. They've cut the national office energy load by having done that. Then there is Japan. Japan has accelerated the restart of key reactors. This is nuclear reactors, aiming to save nearly $100 million in a day in gas imports. If they can manage to go nuke, then they will be saving hugely when it comes to their oil energy bills. And in the United Kingdom, a hiring freeze along with the Tier 2 project delays has been used to cool inflation and to break wage price pressures. So as you can see, it's not just India. Across the world, these steps of austerity have been put in place to try and counterbalance the pinch that global economies have been facing from the Iran war. Well, some of the top business minds of the country have reacted to Prime Minister's austerity measures. In fact, they are saying that it's a step towards the right direction. Listen in.
I'm seeing good buyer growth across studded as well, and that is very, very good for both the industry and for us in terms of margins as well as, bringing the new generation.
I think just as a matter of prudence, you have to try and preserve FX, you have to try and manage the outflow of capital from the country, and some of the easy options might have to be exercised. Look, the Q4 earnings were impacted only for about 3 weeks in the quarter. Right, so it's difficult to say that we expected much dent to numbers in Q4. In many cases, you're right, companies have reported better than expectations nevertheless. But the challenge still remains for Q1.
So let's decode it further. Joining us today on the show, we have Dr. Rakhi Anand Agarwal, a social entrepreneur. Anish Gawande is also joining us, an activist and a politician. Anish, I'm going to start with you. A step in the right direction, these austerity measures, which the Prime Minister says will help us, help the Forex with the frugality. Are you ready for it, Anish?
Meghna, to be perfectly honest, it is deeply hypocritical for the government to ask a pav bhaji wala in Dharavi to cut down on cooking oil while the government itself spends more than 8,000 crores in flying its ministers from one city to another, right? So charity begins at home and the government should also lead by example. So it is
but Anish, everyone needs to do their bit, one would say.
Absolutely, Meghna, and everyone should do their bit, but the government should also do its own bit, right? This is too little, too late. Let me point out a few statistics that make it evidently clear that this was a crisis waiting to happen, right? India's dependence on imported crude oil has climbed from 77.6% in 2014 to 88.6% as of March this year. We have a rupee that is depreciating faster than any other currency in Asia. Last year it was at 85, today it is at 94. You also have an incredible problem with youth unemployment, where you have 15.2% youth unemployment in the country. Now, more importantly, you've got record FII outflows, more than 1 lakh crore rupees in March 2026 alone. FPIs today hold the lowest stake they have in Indian equities than they have in 14 years, right? This does not happen overnight. The Forex crisis does not happen overnight. The Forex crisis has been happening. We have been warning about it for months now. But why has the government not taken any action? So why have we not seen, for example, a fund that could have been created when crude oil prices were at a historic low, where the government let...
But Anish, you agree that it's time we take these steps, right? Just to get your viewpoint clear.
No, Meghna, of course we should take these steps right now. But my problem is that why are we being forced to take steps too little, too late? When we could have taken these steps 2 months ago. Why are we forced into austerity measures that are unnecessary? They are necessary now because the government did not wake up earlier. Nobody is denying that they are necessary.
Is that the problem, Dr. Agarwal, that perhaps these steps, many of these countries started taking it in the second week of the war itself? It's been 72 days since the war began. Why the steps now?
Sorry, is that to me or is that
No,
to
that's
Rakhi?
for Dr. Rakhi Anand Agarwal.
Yes, thank you. So I want to say that, it's never too little too late. What I want to say is first time that an honest attempt has been made for the citizens to make them a part of the problem solving. And not only that, it is not just the responsibility of the government that, you haven't outsourced everything to the government, that they will do everything. It is the responsibility of the citizens also. And if 140 million people try and make a small change in their lifestyles, I think that the change can be gigantic. So it is never too late, too little, or whatever. These are very small steps. I know it is going to be inconvenient for people who want to travel abroad or who want to, who don't like to travel in a public transport and certain smaller things. But I think our PM has been known, even in the past, he has done Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, he has done the UPI payment today. Even a small vendor, a pav bhaji wala, like you said, he has a payment, you can take the payment through UPI. So things have changed in the favor. If we want to become a superpower, we can no way go on like this with a mindset that is totally not sustainable. So we have to have a conscious mindset to be able to achieve that kind of status.
So Anish Gawande, essentially, Raki is saying that let's everyone contribute towards the vision that we have of India. Until everyone contributes, and we just did the math as well, how much we can actually save if we, for example, do 75% less private cars, if we do 2 days of work from home. Why not?
Meghna, for the simple reason that why does this logic not apply to the Central Vista project, where the government was spending 20,000 crore rupees in the middle of a pandemic while all of us were struggling to get oxygen cylinders? Why does this not apply to outrageous schemes like the Pod Taxi Project scheme, which is spending thousands of crores in contract corruption in a city like Mumbai, while the rest of us have to suffer? Why does this not sort of also apply to the absurd government spending that is incurred on sort of PR stunts and programs during elections?
Many would say even your party spends a lot on elections, on campaigning as well. So let's make this party and ideological neutral.
Cannot behave like the opposition, right? And the government certainly cannot behave like it is doing an upkar upon citizens. The government has to do something.
Raki, you want to come in? The onus comfortably has been shifted onto the Janta. Anish says, what is the government doing? What are politicians? I won't even stop at the government. I'm saying, what are politicians cutting across party lines doing about it to cut their political spendings? 2024 elections was the highest, most expensive election in the world.
I think since we are a democratic country, that is a part of running the country. But if we keep blaming the others, that why aren't the politicians doing, why aren't we doing, we cannot keep the shifting the onus from one person to the other. It is correct that they should also reduce their expenses. They are nowhere outside the public. Of course, they should reduce their expenses. I'm a president at the POSH committee, and they used to have this committee meeting where 100 people are coming every month through their vehicles and sitting in one room. So I only urge that, why don't we make this meeting online? Because we are not having any active case. So why can't we make this meeting online? So what I'm talking is about the responsibility of a citizen. Nothing is ever achieved, if you don't have a disciplined behavior. So it is true that government also, the people in the government are also a part of the citizens of this country. Of course, they also have to reduce along with us. It is not just we are going to reduce.
Fair enough.
And other thing is, if you're making 4 trips abroad, we can cut it down to, at least 2 or 3. It is not like you are being told to completely shut it down. It is up to you.
So essentially, do your bit. But I think everyone here on the panel also agrees that every politician, every neta, even the government, the state government, the central, everyone should be doing their bit, not just the Janta. Thank you so much, Raki Anand, for joining us. Anish Gawande, pleasure as always to have you on the show. So the question is, are you willing to sacrifice your comfort for the country?